Good evening, Yat Eia, and welcome to Daybreak Warriors 3 Navajo lessons of the day. And the reason I am using Navajo lessons versus Navajo words, I think it's really important to come to a point to where you don't just learn words, but it's time to start forming sentences in Navajo. The stimulus for all this was a meme that I saw on Facebook. I'm a fan of memes, and this particular meme, when you look at it, it says on there, wait, ahwe ashla. I like it, it's cute, has a nice little monkey. I love memes. I'm not picking on the author of this meme, but it is grammatically incorrect. I've talked to a lot of Navajo language instructors, and when they've tried to teach students, they would say, this is how you say this. A lot of times, students will respond back saying, no, this is how we say it here. No, we have a different dialect here. In all honesty, whether you're from Torreon, whether you're from Tohajilehe, whether you're from Alamo, all the way across to Tuananestize, all the way to Kintlana, all the way to Flagstaff, wherever you're at, wherever you live, there are specific rules that Navajo follows. So this meme brings out one lesson. Some Navajo verbs follow what we call transitive and intransitive verbs. Now, of course, that's describing it in English. If you went up to your grandma, transitive though intransitive verbs, if you were to ask that, she wouldn't know what you were talking about. People who have been raised speaking Navajo when they were born, they don't have to think about these things. It naturally comes to them. Now we got to give a big thank you, a hehen sago. We need to say that to Robert Young and William Morgan for compiling everything that we have so far in terms of the Navajo dictionary. And a lot of the things that they have put in their dictionary is no longer said today, or only the really old elders remember those things. So we really need to be thankful that all that knowledge was collected. Now, because Robert Young and William Morgan use that terminology, we're going to use that terminology. I'm sure public schools, elementary, junior high, high school are all using those terms to identify these verbs. So let's start there. Let's talk about the difference between transitive and intransitive verbs. Let's start with the simple verb to eat, or I'm eating. To say I'm eating is asha. Asha. Now that's just to say I'm eating. You would use that verb if you were to talk about yourself eating Burger King de asha. I'm eating at Burger King. So asha is an intransitive verb. Intransitive verbs, you don't have to say anything about the object. You don't have to say what you're eating. When you're using a word like ashla, which is the intransitive verb, you don't have to say what you're drinking. You're just saying you're drinking ashla. Now, when you say yishla, the transitive form of that word, you have to say what it is you're drinking. So if the meme said kohwe yishla, that would be grammatically correct. So if I wanted to say I was eating fried chicken, then you can say that. Yisha. Now there's different ways to say eating, and we're not going to get into all that. It can depend if it's mushy, if it's meat, that sort of thing. But we're going to avoid all those rules and keep it separate and just talk specifically about transitive and intransitive verbs. If you were going to say, we're eating now, kadaita. Now if somebody was on the phone and said, haish banana, kadaita would be your quick response. We're eating right now. Now if you wanted to switch it around and say, we're all eating cake, batla kanedeita, it changes. So there's two different forms, intransitive versus transitive. You might be wondering why I'm using the version of eating instead of drinking, since that's what the point of the meme was. Now when you're using words like ashla, adla, those are intransitive forms. You're not saying what you're drinking, you're just saying I'm drinking, he or she is drinking. But just like in English, when you're saying ashla, it can sound like I'm drinking alcohol. E ayo adla, you're saying he drinks a lot, but when you say that in English, it also means he drinks a lot of alcohol. So that's why I didn't use that version a lot, because it implies drinking alcohol. My second lesson is to learn from just one source. Now, I did make the comment saying that I did speak to a lot of Navajo language instructors, and they have said that I teach students, and when I try to tell them something, they say, no, I heard it this way, I heard it that way. What you really should be doing is take what you've learned from school, go to your parents, say, is this how you say it? They will tell you how you're supposed to say things, and really use that one person as your sole source. I personally use my parents as my sole source, my mom and my dad. My mom grew up in Lukachukay, my dad grew up in Chinle. Even to this day, they argue over how to correctly say wash. My mom will say boko. My dad will say chushke, and it'll go back and forth. But regardless, you learn different ways of saying different things, but it's best to learn just from one source. I'm even saying that about myself. Everything that I'm teaching you here, go back to your grandparents and say, is he saying this correctly? Is this right? My third lesson, say it wrong. And the reason I say that is, if people in public correct you, you'll know why it's wrong. They'll tell you. If you say it incorrectly, it's fine. But say it to people who really know Navajo, so they can go out and correct you and say, no, that's not how you say it. This is how you should be saying it. And again, I am not making a comment against the person who made the meme. Some of you guys probably remember this meme. That meme is incorrect. So it says, that form da'al is essentially an intransitive verb, meaning people are eating. It doesn't say what they're eating. Those people are eating. Meat specifically. Now, how it should have read is taji da'al. That should have been written with the transitive verb. At that time, I was still learning how to properly write things in Navajo. I was still learning how to read things in Navajo. The next thing I didn't do is, when I was writing it, I didn't run it by my parents, which is what I should have done when I made that meme. And unfortunately, when you Google how to say Thanksgiving in Navajo, that incorrect form is all over the internet. So anyway, that's the lesson I'd like to kind of share tonight. One, some Navajo verbs have a transitive and intransitive form. Of course, different verbs run by different rules, but there are rules in place for these things. My second lesson, again, learn from one source. My third lesson, feel free to get it wrong, and get it wrong in front of people who are fluent speakers. If you say it wrong, they'll correct you. It's a good thing.